Hi everyone, it's Friday, and that means another heart-to-heart. And this heart-to-heart is the first of a series of 4 about panic disorder. This first episode, I'm going to discuss with you the things that led up to me having panic disorder. And when I turned 30, I'm 47 now, but when I turned 30, the first small episode I've had of anxiety disorder was immediately following a small surgery to have my wisdom teeth removed. Now, I was never under anesthesia before, and I've never taken pain medication before. But after my wisdom teeth were removed, I went home and took some pain medication that they prescribed. Within 2 or 3 hours after this pain medication, I became very ill, and my heart started racing, and I was rushed to the ER. To make a long story short, they claimed that I had an allergic reaction to it. So I had the anxiety for a few months after that, and I was put on an antidepressant. I did not like the feeling of the antidepressant, and so I slowly weaned myself off. Now, this only happened within a few months' time, and I was fine. I never had a problem years after that. And then at age 41, I was involved in a situation that threw my world upside down. I have to weigh my words very strongly and very carefully, because this is not about gossip or about airing bad information about people. I'm only going to say a few things for a few minutes to lead up to my anxiety disorder, because the story that led to it is not what my mission is about. But in order in sharing with it, sometimes you need to share some parts of your life that were very hard and very challenging. I have no ill feelings or no disrespect for the people that are involved. I do not have any contact, nor do I ever will want to have contact with these people. I have no unforgiveness towards them, but I do not need to be their friends. At age 41, the 2 most important people in my life passed away. My husband's parents died 6 months from each other. Now, of course, they were of elderly age. They lived a full life. But death, no matter at what age happens, is very sad and very traumatic. What happens to me and my husband happens to many families. And it's a very sad situation. Immediately following the death of my father-in-law, others in the family decided that was a good opportunity to start digging in the funds. Now, they will claim that their taking of the money was all because of services they rendered. They did some services, and they were paid highly well with those services from their own hands. They would write checks out, multiple checks and large checks. At the time, my husband and I didn't realize the extent of their, what my husband would say, stealing. Stealing is a harsh word, but taking advantage, I would say. These things escalated to the point that when 6 months later my husband's mother died, it got really bad. The bickering and the fighting and the drama of the inheritance grieved my husband and my soul to the point of total sadness. We got to see what lust and greed will do to somebody. They will take away all of the blood ties. They will do anything to get their hands on money. I have never really liked money. Not because I didn't have it, because I've had it. Because I know what money can do to people. And that doesn't do that to everyone. I understand that. And I would never judge anyone on that. But oftentimes money makes people greedy. And what happened was my husband and I stayed true to our beliefs. We didn't go after these people. We could illegally. We've had legal advice, and they were ready. They wanted to prosecute. But we decided that that is not what the Lord would want us to do and what His parents would want us to do. So we let things go. But the constant bickering between them and the constant nagging and the constant stress took me to the breaking point. Now, I don't give them any credit for that. In fact, I'm very thankful at this point in my life that I've gone through all that, because going through that has created a strength in me and my husband that no one can take away. But what happened was, when it was all said and done, about 4 weeks later, I started becoming very ill. And one thing I want to explain with you, in panic and post-traumatic stress disorder, is oftentimes when you're in a stressful situation, in the moment of that stress, you will not feel any after effects of that. It is weeks and a few months later is when those stresses will come out. So if you're in a stressful situation and you say, I'm doing really well, that is great, because you don't feel it until months later. And I do want to say, not everyone goes through this. I am predispositioned to have anxiety disorder. Anxiety, panic disorder is an inherited, oftentimes, predisposition. The same as somebody who would have diabetes, arthritis. That does not necessarily mean that we have to have it, but it just means that we are easier to get it. This stress I had was in a period of 2 years. It wasn't just a 1 day, 2 day thing, and it was severe. We were so persecuted. It was, to this day, I have never seen the evilness I've seen in those 2 years. Enough of that said. Now we'll move on to what happened. So 3 weeks later, I started becoming ill. I felt like I was going to faint, and I fainted quite often, and I felt weak. I could not eat. I had trouble sleeping. Those were the first symptoms. And then as the days went on, it got worse and worse and worse. And to the point where I started receiving severe panic attacks. And I'll explain to you what causes the panic attacks in the next episode. But what happens usually is it's severe cases of anxiety. And when the anxiety is not relieved, you produce adrenaline, which causes panic attacks. Now, I am not a doctor, and nor do I claim to be one. But I am sharing with you my experience. Everyone's experience is different, except for the fundamental steps in anxiety and panic disorder are usually the same. There is always a trigger. You may not know what the trigger is. And you may, in my case, I knew exactly what it was. But there is always a trigger. So 3 months into this, I still wasn't eating. And I started losing lots and lots amount of weight. My hair started falling out. So I went to the ER. The doctor said, oh, everything was fine. I was sure I had some deadly disease. And that's oftentimes with people with panic disorder. They think there's something really wrong. So I went home, and then I went to the doctor. And that's when I decided to make some life-changing decisions. On the way home from the doctor, I had a handful of pills. And I will show you these pills in my next episode, but there were a handful of them. I've never, to this day, ever taken one. I cried out to God on the way home, and I said, God, you need to show me what to do. And He did. And I will show you in episode 2 what the Lord has done and the steps I have taken. I want to share with you that going through this situation has been one of the best things in my life. I went through severe sadness. I went through severe anger. I went through severe hopelessness. And now I've gone with amazing joy. Because I have a heart for those who have gone through this and are going through this. I have a heart that many do not have, that have never gone through severe situations. Post-traumatic stress disorder affects a lot of people, and mostly affects military people or anyone that had trauma in their life. Now, I am a very soft-hearted person. This situation I went through, some people would not have bothered them. They would have spoke their mind, they would have yelled, they would have screamed, they would have got their emotions out. I'm very soft-hearted. I'm a very kind person. I'm a very fair person. And when you see people that are so unfair and so unkind to their own flesh and blood, it just grieved me severely. And I was unable to grieve the loss that I experienced because I was so emotionally wrapped up in the events that were happening. One memory that sticks out for me forever is at the funeral. We were sitting outside and the casket was only about 4 feet from me, where my mother-in-law was laying. Now this was a woman that was like a mother to me most of my married life. While others were laughing and talking about how they got their nails done and happy, I sat there grieving in a way that was very sad and hard. And so I have learned now to let go of the past. But what happened was, at night I would have flashbacks, severe flashbacks of things they said, things they did, how they were treating us, how they were doing this, how people were doing that. And that's PTSD. PTSD is flashbacks. Your mind is constantly going like this. All the things are playing in your head. And you get to the point where you can't get them out of your head. And those are things that what feeds the adrenaline then, and I will share with you. It's hard not for me to share with you everything, but it's just too much to cover in one video. So this video is nothing you really need to take notes on because this is sharing my experience. But I would encourage you to take notes on the next installments because I'm going to share with you some things that are extremely helpful to anyone, even if you don't have anxiety disorders. I've not had any anxiety now for about 6 years. So I've been anxiety free for 6 years, but I do feel sometimes when the anxiety might be coming on, I know what to do to take care of that. So I thank you so much for listening. This is not an easy topic, but to this day, I've had 37 private messages thanking me for covering this topic because this is one of those things that people don't talk about, and there is no reason to be ashamed. This is nothing of a weakness. This is not a weakness in people. This is a physical situation that is caused. It's no different than heart problems, no different than diabetes, no different than any other disease. And sometimes people just hearing somebody talking about it helps them in tremendous ways. Stay tuned, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Bye.